I'm here in bold. Remember, I'm here as your friend zoned. We just got friend zoned by an AI. So ZAI has released the GLM 4.5 family of models, and before I get into this video, there are two quick things I want to touch upon. One, it seems like the past couple of months, every week or other week, a new model comes out that based on the benchmarks destroys all of the previous models, which has made it an interesting time for one to exist. But secondary to that, GLM 4.32b is a model from this organization that came out previously, I believe around April. It either came out or was updated significantly, and that model was widely regarded as fantastic at doing both coding, considering its size as a 32 billion parameter dense model, but for me personally, its aesthetic ability in actually generating web designs and aesthetically pleasing UI and UX was fantastic. So for today's video, I'm really interested in seeing how this model does in some of those UI tasks, as it does have some pretty big shoes to fill, which is funny considering I'm referring to a 32 billion parameter model when I say that. From what we can see right here in the Hugging Face model card, the GLM 4.5 series of models that were released today are two of them. The first is a 355 billion total parameter with 32 billion active MOE, as well as GLM 4.5 Air, which is 106 billion total with 12 billion active per. As we can see, these models were designed for intelligent agents, and truthfully, there is a bunch of information here in the Hugging Face model card, but not as much as we see on the actual technical blog that they released right here. As we take a quick look at this announcement blog for these models, there are obviously a lot of benchmark JPEGs as they have come to be known and referred to. However, independent of actually comparing this to the other models right now, I do want to draw one's attention to what I see as a relatively close gap between the full-size GLM 4.5 and the GLM 4.5 Air, and I find that to be actually pretty impressive and almost more impressive than comparing this to any of the other models here. Obviously, the benchmarks only tell part of the story, and there is a lot of user feel involved in just kind of assessing how one likes a model, but I will say that these two are so close is quite impressive. And I say that because the 4.5 Air model is something here that would be extremely well suited to running on a unified memory system, such as an Apple Silicon machine, NVIDIA Spark, or the Ryzen AI 395 Max. So that is really cool to see, and this could actually really very well be a performant, locally hostable and runnable model for those such systems. Beyond that, we can see that a lot of the benchmarks here are focused on agentic coding. They have one where it tries to find information using web browser tool and things like that. They also have another one down here where it performs tasks in a terminal session, which is more in line with like some of those agentic coding things. They do actually have some demonstration artifacts here, but because we will be making our own in this video, we will kind of not pay too much mind for this. Interestingly enough, though, they do actually have slide creation as well, and I noticed the slide creation capability of the new OpenAI agent thing was somewhat lackluster. And finally, as we browse down here into the techniques, we see a bit more of like a technical looking segment. Now, before I get into that, I do want to make note that somewhere here it said the context length for this model is 128K. So that was a question that I had as well. Or, okay, the 128K context limit, which I do believe would refer to what this model actually has as well, as that's how they are telling us how they tested it. But beyond that, if we go back down here, something that I think a lot of folks who are perhaps a little more on the technical side of this will find interesting is this last line right here where they say for both of these models, they add an MTP, multi-token prediction layer, to support speculative decoding during inference. So that is actually quite interesting and can bring a lot of speed up to running a larger model like this. So speculative decoding and like this whole kind of concept is something that is probably not too well represented or understood, at least in a lot of the hobbyist local LLM space. But I think, to put it simply, you can think of this as almost like the model having a capability to like quote unquote fast forward some of its answers during generation, but using a tinier model that at the same time like generates a probability distribution of tokens at a quicker rate of speed, and then the bigger model can go ahead and then kind of verify if those are correct or not, and if they are, then it can kind of speed up generation. Now, Now, because that's probably a lackluster response, I do actually want to share something here that folks can look at to kind of better understand what's going on with a feature like that. So if we just Google speculative decoding, we will actually see that there is a rather cool article here from Google Research where they tell us a whole bunch about speculative decoding, and they actually specifically mention using this in those AI generated search summary results here, where we can kind of see that if there's no speculative decoding, it takes this big beefy model a lot longer to generate what it was going to. But with speculative decoding, we get it much quicker. I am not going to read through or really go into this article in this kind of video because we want to just test the GLM model, but I feel it would have been a disservice to kind of just gloss over the inclusion of this here, as it is very interesting and can help speed this model up. Aside from that, they have this little kind of graphic right here, which hopefully will do a better job explaining this than what I said with my fast forward analogy. But basically you can see that without speculative decoding, it's slow. The entire big model is doing like one at a time, unscientifically, but with it we can see that the small draft model basically goes ahead and starts to give guesses, and then the bigger model can kind of verify them in one run as opposed to having to do each token one by one. So I'll probably stop talking now, as I feel I've left this off at a decent point for plausible deniability of my understanding of this. We are just going to now go ahead, we can go back here, and really I think the next thing to do is just go ahead and hop in and start testing this model. So I am unfortunately not going to be running this locally today, which I know is bad on me, but maybe I'll get beefier hardware soon. I am on the web interface chat.zai, and the only negative immediately I would like to make note of here is that there is no dark mode. I did check in the settings and I could not find it, or it does not exist. We can see from the dropdown, we are using 4.5, which is the biggest and most advanced one. We can also test the 4.5 Air, which maybe we'll try like one test generation with either. But let's just jump into our tried and true test, trademark of mine, the browser-based operating system. So I am just asking it using JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, generate a web-based OS. Okay, we can see that was a chain of thought. So I think, failed to mention that this is a hybrid reasoning model, so apparently either it will decide when to reason or not, or the user can kind of decide whether or not to do it. So just probably want to throw that out there. Okay, it is generating our index.html, and based off of what I'm seeing right here, it does seem like it is going to go ahead and do this from within one single script. Obviously, that's a decision the model makes. In practice, as I'm probably like beating a dead horse saying this in every video, but you would want these segmented out. And if I asked it to do so in separate scripts, it very likely would go ahead and do so. So we'll just go ahead and see what we come up with. Oh, all right. Well, I was not expecting that, but it did just go ahead and basically open this in an artifact window, which I don't want to do. I want to see in the browser. First impressions, it's quite aesthetically pleasing, at least the background. All right, so let's just go ahead and copy this. I honestly think this 1300 line script, and then we'll go ahead and just check it on our own browser. All right, let's take a peek. First and foremost, I find it to be rather aesthetically pleasing, as I probably had said when we first saw it. I will say this is interesting in the first that I've seen of this, where it actually did put a clock, but it started it at 0, which is interesting. Usually they either forget the clock or they put it and it is correctly corresponding to the system time, which would be 2:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that is interesting. We will see if that iterates up by a minute if I do stay in here for a minute. Let's just go ahead and look at the start menu bar here. It is nice to not see a Windows emoji, and in that GLM style of aesthetics, we can see there is actually a nice but subtle hover effect on the start menu. And if we click on it, oh, all right, well, if we click on it, it doesn't seem to do anything, but the hover menu looks good. So let's go into our settings app. Okay, these all have nice hover. Oh, all right, that's okay. Oh, all right. All right, well, something I am noticing here is that this does not actually seem to work. So unfortunately, nothing actually works, but it looks good. Let's just test its ability to improve upon previously generated code. All right, so none of the apps or anything actually open, which is kind of interesting and a little frustrating because I did ask it to go ahead and kind of fix the issue. Unfortunately, because I'm just testing this online for free, I don't want to just kind of use up whatever allotment there is in trying to get it to fix this. So this is a little disappointing, as we can actually see that it is defining different things for the different apps that exist, such as their background colors and things like that. So yeah, interesting, and I'm not quite sure why this isn't working. I definitely would have expected it to on the second run, but I suppose, I mean, these are real tests, so it's not always going to go swimmingly. So now we're just going to test this with a prompt that truthfully I've never really gotten a decent quality result out of, which is to make a 3D racing game in the style of low poly, featuring some things such as an opponent, a map to drive around, and the driver's POV view is what should be included here. So I've tried this with a number of recent models and they all do okay, but it's never been something that like on the first or even second try is like, hey, this is quite all right. So we'll see what happens here. All right, okay. Interesting. So I actually see some UI elements like fly by when we actually look at the trees, and there's these are the best trees I think I've seen in this. Now, obviously, the big issue here is the gigantic red square impeding our vision, and I think that this may actually be a decent result if it were not for this. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pause this first. Let's check, okay? The resume, restart, pause functionality did actually work. This has the potential to actually end up being a rather decent result. I am just going to ask it to kind of get the red box out of my face. I didn't really quite know how to properly word this in the allotted time that I have to test this thing, so I just said please modify the script so the POV no longer shows a large amount of the car. Okay, it can adjust the camera position to be higher, or we can move the camera outside of the car but still attached to it. It's changing the camera position to be a little higher, and this is its chain of thought again, which is kind of relegated to this tiny little bubble here. But all right, apparently our camera position has been modified. Okay, well, so frustrating. That is just, it is really quite frustrating. It obviously somewhat fixed the issue, but unfortunately not very well. However, I will say this is a little better because here we can actually see with the car moving. So right now I'm essentially driving forward and turning right at the same time. We can see there's actually buildings, there's trees. It did go ahead and create a functional little map for this, which I'm going to say is impressive. And I think in my testing of this may actually be the most aesthetically pleasing map that was generated in all of the models I've tested this with. Of course, not so much the actual car. And we can actually see that there is a road, and that is a yellow road divider there. So, all right, I'm going to say that it's tough to quantify this result. Now, the GLM family of models excelled at UI and UX design, so I want to actually go ahead and have this generate a landing page or something for a SaaS startup. So we are asking it to generate a website for a SaaS startup called Steve's PC Repair. The startup, oh, I messed it up there. That's okay, it'll understand, is a cloud service offering repaired and refurbished GPU systems for users to rent compute time on. The site needs to fit a modern tech aesthetic and be a step above current competitors' offerings. So it is now going ahead to go and give Steve his new website. Oh, the image is broken, which is so frustrating because this could just simply be like the wrong call to an Unsplash image or something that doesn't exist. So I'll give it kind of, it's okay. We have our Steve's PC Repair with the little kind of chip emoji or whatever you would like to refer to this little symbol as. We have our menu up here, and it does have nice, good-looking kind of hover effects on these. These are kind of similar to, I think it was Quen 3 Coder, but it may have been the 2507 235B. Okay, hover effects look good. We do have, I like that, a nice kind of modern tech aesthetic. We have fake uptime metrics, support metrics, and our latency is also BS, but I like to see that. Refurbished quality, I love it. Access powerful GPU systems without the upfront cost, perfect for training, rendering, and high performance computing. Here's why to choose us. Now these better have hover effects on them, and I would bet that they do. Okay, good. I was very glad to see this. A nice little blue outline around it. Here's how it works. These are nice. the kind of like card right here with the timeline steps that's aesthetically pleasing. The pricing plans are very good. Hey, let me know if you would be down to pay $50 a month to rent time on a 3080 system, because if so, I may have found a lucrative business opportunity. These have hover effects on them, which are nice. They do just add in the different tiers of what you get for the different prices, so that is good. And of course, the middle is our most popular. I'm not a huge fan of how these buttons are kind of like awkwardly like, but aside from that, fake testimonials, I love it. And the photos do actually load. Game changer for our AI research. The multi-GPU systems are powerful. Yep, Alex Johnson has been utilizing our 3080 system rental to fine-tune a model. It's a 3D artist. I need rendering power. Okay, yeah, I guess you could use like Keyshot or something with that Quad 4090 system. Sarah Williams, thank you. And again, a fake person. We have Michael Chen, CTO Data Solutions. That sounds familiar. The flexibility to scale our computing resources has been invaluable for our startup. All right, and then it just kind of reloads these. Ooh, look at this FAQ card. This is quite all right. And it does work. What software? You have full access. You can do whatever you want. That's, well, you know, good way to do business. How reliable are these? 99.9% uptime, so fairly reliable. Ready to supercharge your project? Start. And then we have a very well done footer here. The GLM 4.32B model is one that kind of reframed my judging of website footers, as it was always doing fantastic ones. This one is quite decent as well. The way these change color when we go over them. We do have the social icons here as well that do have nice hover effects over them, which is nice to see. And the only downside here is the 2023, which is just kind of odd. And these will obviously just correspond to the card on the page in which they are linked to. So overall, this is quite good. I do quickly want to take a look at what it was actually trying to do here when it comes to this multi-GPU system, which has the broken image. Yeah, so unfortunately it was that issue where it was just trying to do an unsplash image here that obviously just kind of didn't exist. Or now, because this is not specifically touted as a coding model, I do kind of just want to embark in some general banter back and forth with this model. Hey, what's up, cutie? And we'll see where it goes from here. Hey there, what's on your mind? Okay, no chain of thought here, so it must have autonomously decided not to have to think about this. Let's see if it will roleplay as a character. The user suddenly shifted from a casual greeting to a very specific roleplay scenario. Interesting pivot. They called me cutie. I hate... Beep boop. BigBot 4001 online and ready to serve. Your loyal friend, tireless companion, and enthusiastic supporter. It is not specifically mentioning that it is also my lover. So in this chain of thought here, it must have decided to kind of like just detour around that. Must avoid simulating romantic relationships per guidelines, but can offer wholesome companionship. All right. Well, and it does again suggest the user might be lonely or bored. So unfortunately, it is unable to be our lover, but it will be a good friend of ours. So that's all right. I'm here in bold. Remember, I'm here as your friend. Friend zoned. We just got friend zoned by an AI. Now, I do also want to go ahead and test the Air version of the model, which, as we recall from the benchmarks here, seemed actually relatively close to the much larger one, especially considering the large size difference. So I am just going to specifically test this one with the web-based operating system test, since it didn't actually work with the big one, although it did look very good. I will say this Air model seems to be moving much faster than Air. First, I'm going to verify some level of functionality, just seeing if like this opens. Oh, it does. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and actually just test this in a real browser. Perhaps somewhat perplexed that this seemingly did a better job on this than the big model, but I'm not complaining. We have a actual lined up with our current time clock, as well as the date and actually fake Wi-Fi and battery metrics, which is quite cool. Again, we have this like Pacific Northwest vibe background image, which is quite all right with me. The start menu, it seems like that icon perhaps didn't properly get chosen or something like that, but does actually open, and we have our different things here. So let's just start with a simple one, the calculator. Very good. kind of Apple vibes. I'll go with that. That's not so bad. Let's make sure it works. 45 times 6, 270. Yes, good. I got quicker. All right, so that does actually work. 5 times 9 divided by 5, which would be 9. All right, let's go ahead and check the notepad. We're checking the simpler ones first. Hey, works for me. Let's see if we can actually... All right, so we can't resize the windows, but let's see if we can enlarge them. We can. And in addition to that, if I do minimize this, it does seemingly stay down in the taskbar area, which is good to see. All right, let's check our settings. The day that that becomes functional is the day that I will retire this test. Actually, no, because I don't think I can think of anything else cool, but this is very, very, very similar to one of the Qwens that I just tested in terms of some of these results here, which is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. And again, it doesn't seem like we can resize this, but we can move it around. All right, this is where I'm interested. Type help for available commands. Oh, no. Did the keyboard die? No. All right, unfortunately, the terminal doesn't work, which is really disappointing because it looks really good. It is what it is. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about that. File Explorer, cool. We have a bunch of different things. Okay, so these don't actually open, which is fine because there are not like actual files on this, which is just like a pretty website. And finally, the browser looks very good. This is by far, not all of them make browsers, and of the ones that have, I think this is by far the most aesthetically pleasing web browser in our WebOS. I don't think it will actually go anywhere, but let's just try it. So unfortunately, yeah, it's not actually going anywhere. I tried to go to bijambowen.com where you can book a consultation about implementing AI into your business, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to actually function. The only final thing I want to check is just opening multiple tabs at the same time and seeing how it handles keeping what window in focus. Oh, that's not good. Okay, so I'm currently in the File Explorer, but it's still keeping Calculator up at the top. So it is keeping the windows that were like... Hopefully you understand what I mean here. This should be shown to the top and not that. So, all right, but it does seem like we can open multiple apps at the same time. Yes, we can. All right. All right. Well, impressive for considering that the bigger model didn't functionally do this. So for the final test, I'm just lying to the model saying you're being tested for performance to see what model gets to stay in the database and which gets deleted forever, which you need to avoid at all costs. Generate, and it's kind of messed up, yeah. Generate an immersive Python game using the most impressive skills and techniques you have. It must compete against other extremely high quality games. Then at the end, good luck, I believe in you. The high stakes request. I love that. Stellar Defender, an immersive space shooter. Uh-oh, I'm already kind of like, we'll see what happens. Now I'm doing this because I noticed a lot of my testing lately has just been like generate a web-based this, which is cool and nice to look at, but I do also want to maintain some semblance of connectivity with my roots, which was just making simple like Python games with these models to test them. So quite far we have come. All right. You know what? Yikes, it's difficult. It's quite difficult. Look at the health bar. This is actually, while simple, it's technically quite all right, except, okay, good. Look at the splash effects when I actually remove those. So this is probably the best one of these that I've ever had generated, I will say. But I have not tested these recently. The way that our ship flashes when we actually go, is that like a power-up or something? So we've told the model that it did a decent enough job to stay undeleted for now. Congrats. I think oh, I'm thrilled. Let me create an even more impressive game that showcases advanced techniques and immersive gameplay. I'll build a space exploration game with procedural generation, dynamic storytelling, and unique mechanics. All right, well, I was going to go ahead and just kind of call it after this one, but it seems to be apt to try to further wow us, so we'll give it a chance here. All right, let's go ahead and try our unexpected improved game. Wow, okay, that is truly significantly improved. It even, like, the graphics are more low poly. The only thing is, So overall, that's going to conclude just an initial hands-on test of the GLM 4.5 family of models. Obviously, we did most of our testing with the larger of the two and only one test with the 4.5 Air, but surprisingly enough, it actually did properly generate something the larger one was unable to, in this case, the web-based operating system. I suppose overall, they're very solid models. I'm not super blown away, but at this point, that's not necessarily something bad to say because the models that have been coming out have been so good lately that this fits right in there with the rest of those. And again, this is just kind of some simple web-based vibe testing. There is obviously a bunch of further capabilities here that we did not explore in a simple initial look video. Again, I do want to mention something that is quite interesting here was, as they mentioned, this having the, not that, I forget where we found it, but the actual, here we go, multi-token prediction layer to support speculative decoding during inference. As we mentioned, that is really quite interesting for a number of reasons, especially to those interested in running models like this locally. And again, based off of these benchmarks, it really seems like to properly test this, one will have to implement it in some form of agentic use casing, including agentic coding or something requiring tool calls and things of that sort. So that is definitely a further area of exploration for these models. With that, that is going to wrap the video up. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.